Morning everyone and welcome to the preview event for history. Today we will give you all of the key information that you need to know about what the history department at Bede has to offer. If you do have any questions at any point during this, please submit them through the Q&A box. So we'll start with a brief introduction of both of us. So my name's Tamara Pierce, I'm the history teacher here at Bede. I also teach on the Religion, Philosophy and Ethics course. I've been at Bede for around 7 years. My favourite thing about history is how it's constantly changing. Now, people often think about history as just the past, but it is always changing and developing based on historians' interpretations of the source material they have. My personal favourite topic in history is American history. I find it really fascinating to learn about.
Hi, my name is Anne Wells and I also teach history at Bede and I teach politics. I've been here for just over 4.5 years. Why history? So many reasons why it's fantastic. It tells you about the present. The past informs the present, and I think, as Tamara said, the interpretation's always changing, always insightful. Period of history for me, difficult. So many things I've taught I've loved. If I had to pick one, I would say the interwar years in Britain and in Germany.
So at Bede, we're aware of how diverse history can be, and therefore we offer more than one option for you to do, so more than one period of history for you to study. This gives you the option to study something you're really passionate about, a period of history that you have picked. We offer modern and Tudor. So I'm going to go over the modern course and what you'll do in year 1, then Anne will go over the Tudor course and what you'll do in year 1 of that course, and then I'll go over the second year course. So in the modern course, we're looking at the theme of democracies in change. So this means that you'll study 2 democracies, Britain and the USA, and you'll look at how they've changed across a period of time. There's key themes that run throughout them all, and so we can compare how has Britain changed compared to how America has changed. So when we look at Britain, we're looking at 1918 until 1997. This is your breadth study. So what that means is you're covering a long period of time and assessing those bigger changes over that period. We cover lots of topics within this, so we'll start off and we'll look at politics, economics and industrial relations, looking at topics such as why did Labour win the 1945 election, how did Labour rise to prominence and the Liberal Party declines. We'll then look at the welfare state, so looking at how education's changed, why we got an NHS and what success that's had. We'll then look at society, so looking at things such as race and race relations, how's that changed? How have values changed? Then we'll look at our 4th topic, which is quality of life. Within that, we look at life for Britain's cultural changes. So how has popular culture changed our experience? How has sports and leisure changed our experience? And then we'll do an interpretations topic on Margaret Thatcher, looking at the success of her premiership, and we'll have a debate on that. We'll then move on and we'll look at America, which is our depth study, 1918 until 1955. So a much shorter period of time and really going more in depth with that. Now, Britain is taught thematically, so we look at themes. America is taught chronologically, so we will look from the start, 1918, and go on in order until we get to 1955. So we start off with the Roaring Twenties, so we look at the reasons for the economic boom in the 1920s. And then we start to look at the social side of this. Things people normally forget that happened in the 1920s, such as the KKK, prohibition and organised crime, and the fight for women's rights. We then move on and we'll look at the Wall Street crash. So why did the Wall Street crash happen? How did this lead on to the Depression? And what impact did this have on the everyday lives of Americans? We'll then look at FDR's New Deal. Did this help the people? How did it aim to help the people? Then moving on to World War II and what impact that had on America. We finish off by looking at the transformation of the USA with topics such as the Cold War and start of the Civil Rights Movement.
Okay, so to tell you briefly about the alternative strand of history that we're going to be able to offer at enrolment, if you would prefer to go back further than the 20th century and look at an earlier period, we're going to offer you a course, Early Modern History, looking at the Tudors and the Reformation in Europe. So again, it's exactly the same exam board and it's structured the same way. So just as Tamara said, you've got one unit that's themes across breadth and one unit that's depth. So with the Tudors, the breadth study is to look at the development of the Tudor state, religion and society across 100 years. And obviously you can't look at the Tudors, can you, without looking at some pretty famous character personalities. So if I just show you that, for example, you might recognise that as Henry VIII, second king in the Tudor dynasty. And what this unit is all about is looking at how he and his descendants, so for example his son Edward VI and two queens who you might recognise, particularly this one at the bottom here, that's Elizabeth I, but also Mary Tudor. These four monarchs make up the vast bulk of the Tudor dynasty, and they took England from a pretty small, insignificant country to arguably the beginnings of world and European domination. So, what we're going to look at? We're going to look at, obviously, the role of the monarchy, how they changed things, what they did, how they controlled England, but also it's not just about them. We're going to look at Tudor society. We're going to look at how Tudor society was changing and their relationship with the monarchy. We look at rebellion. There were lots of attempts to rebel against these monarchs during their rule. We look at why. What forces somebody to want to actually go against the leader of their state? We look at why that happened, we look at the impact, and when we get to the end of the topic, in the interpretation section, just like the modern, for us, it's looking at the big issue of Elizabeth I, arguably one of our most iconic leaders, monarchs in English history, sorry. Was she leading a strong country at the end of her rule, or was it in crisis? Now there's some links there with the GCSE module that you might have done looking at the golden ages of Elizabeth, finishes at the Armada. This takes it forward, and historians have different views about how strong or otherwise Elizabeth was as a leader. So that's the breadth study, so society, monarchy, and also religious change. That takes me on to Unit 2, so the depth study, the equivalent of America for the modern. And this is looking at religious change and conflict in Europe. And it's all centred, if you can see this face, not quite as striking as the Henry VIII painting. This is a man called Martin Luther. Martin Luther, in 1517, started a big debate about the Catholic Church in Europe. And the arguments and the criticisms that he put across about why the Catholic Church was wrong, why it should change, that started something called the Reformation. And there's overlaps between this and the English unit, where we look at how religious change was affecting both European society, and particularly Martin Luther in Germany, and also in the Tudor period. So we'll go into depth and look at how Europe was changing and its links to Britain. Okay.
I think both of those topics in Year 1 are fantastic for giving context to societal issues today. So, for example, in Britain, when we're looking at race relations, that's very relevant today. And when you're doing the other unit with Anne, I'm looking at religious issues and how has religion played a role in society. That would also be great to issues that we kind of live in today. So after you've specialised in Year 1 and you've picked which kind of topics you want to do in Year 1, you'll move into Year 2. Now, all students in Year 2 will do one piece of coursework. So the coursework is an independent study into an area where there's been historical debate. So we pick something where there's been a lot of debate and historians can't seem to agree on why something happened or how something happened. This unit is really great for preparing you for further study because it's all about your research, what sources can you find and what argument can you formulate. You'll then do a final unit called the Witch Craze. Now, the witch craze has consistently been the most popular unit that we teach across the history A-level. So for the witch craze, you may have touched upon this topic if you studied Elizabethan England in your GCSE history, or it might be something completely new to you. So we look at, why did the witch craze start? There's always been this belief in the magical, but why did people start to believe that witches had to be persecuted? They had to be executed and removed from everyday life. So we look at things like the role of the monarchy. How did the monarchs play a role in this? We also look at religion. How did religion shape this? And then changes in the law. What made it legally possible to execute somebody for witchcraft? We'll then look at 5 case studies, so 5 witch trials across North America, England and Europe. A really interesting one is the Pendle witch trials, which happened in Lancashire in 1612. So we'll look at why they happened, what happened and why they ended. We'll then look again at, why did the trials end overall? Was it because people had a better scientific understanding of things that had previously been explained by magic? Or was it because of changes in the law, changes in society? Was it that the economy got better and people didn't need to scapegoat witches anymore? So that one is an exam as well. So moving on to assessment, the 3 units that we've discussed are exams, and then there's 1 piece of coursework. So you will do 3 exams and 1 piece of coursework. The exams are essay based, so you will do essays and source analysis within those exams. Your longest exam would be 2 hours 15, and you'd be required to write 3 essays in that exam. Your shortest exam would be 1 hour 30, and you would be required to write 2 essays in that time. The coursework is 3,000 to 4,000 words and would be 20% of your overall A-level. I think it's fantastic that history is a mix of coursework and exams, because depending on where your strengths are, you can kind of play up to one area. So if you're really good at writing coursework, it's got that for you, but if you're better at exams, it's got exams as well. So I thought I'd finish with why history. I could talk about this topic forever, because obviously we love history and we've chosen to specialise in it. But just some key points then, and then you can have some as well. Yeah. So I think one of the best things about history is that it gives you context to the world that we live in today. So you can look at the events that are happening today and think about how that has built up over time. So one key example is Brexit and everything that's happening around that. We can look back at our relationship with the EU. Why was that formed in the first place? Why did we want to join? And what have the arguments around that been throughout history? But even going further back, why must nations collaborate with each other? Why has that happened throughout history? It's a facilitating subject, so it's a subject that goes really well with other subjects. So history is the story of everything. So regardless of where your interests are and what other subjects you want to do, history can work really well with those subjects. So even if it is that you want to do sciences and then you want a subject that you're really passionate about, history can go in there. Or if you want to do more humanities-based subjects, history can fit in and teach you the skills that you would need to know for those subjects as well. It's really highly regarded at universities. So jobs and universities love history because of the skills that you gain in doing it. We do not teach you what you have to think. We teach you how to make those decisions for yourself, teaching you how to find evidence and then how to make your own decision from that.
Yeah, I mean, I would just echo everything that Tamara just said there. It teaches you to understand the world. It gives you an appreciation of change over time. You know, we can't understand the world we live in today unless we understand its past. The choice that you've got here on this course at Bede gives you a chance to have contrast across your options, particularly if you go for the modern, if you go for the Tudor, you've got more of the continuity and you'll be able to look at depth and breadth, interpretations, you've got the whole package. So come and join us at History at Bede.
We'll see if there's any questions now, but we wanted to end by saying thank you for listening to us, and we really hope to meet you all in September.
One question, if you have studied history at GCSE, would that link to the course you do, or does it not matter?
So in terms of skills built up from GCSE, yes, definitely GCSE history prepares you for the A-level, especially with the newer changes to GCSE. A lot of the skills that you've done in terms of your essay writing, we build upon those and develop them. So we just kind of suppose do it at a higher level. In terms of content, you do not need to have studied a topic that we study here to then take it at A-level. So say, for example, if you're wanting to do the early modern course and you've never studied anything like that, or at GCSE you studied more modern, that's completely fine. But if you have studied some of those topics, again, it would just give you that groundwork and you can build upon that.
Okay, that's everything.
Okay, thank you.